everyone, and welcome to Over Easy Acres. We have been participating in the Pantry Challenge for the last month. If you've been following along, and if you're new, you've just joined in at the end of our Pantry Challenge, so that part is over. You can go ahead and look at our past videos to see what that was about. But in celebration of the end of that, we're going to be making chocolate chip cookies today, and then later I'm going to be telling you my thoughts on the Pantry Challenge, what I would do differently, and would I even do it again, and what I learned. So anyway, I want you to be able to bake along with me because there's just something about a chocolate chip cookie that is just everyone's favorite. There might be fancier desserts, but a chocolate chip cookie just always ranks up there as one of the best things that you can offer someone when they come over. It's a comfort cookie, it's an easy cookie, it's an everyday cookie, but it's also just a wonderful, appreciated cookie. And so I'm going to share with you how I make them. I make them pretty often, actually. They're a hit over here. And if you've watched some of my other ones, you know that I have been grinding my own wheat, and it really has been making a difference in the cookies. I mean, they're so good with the freshly ground wheat. So I already have that ready here, and I will show you my ingredients for the ease. I already measured everything out. So if you want to go ahead and bake along with me, I'm going to show you what you're going to need, and then you can just hit pause, get all your stuff together, and then unpause, and we'll be cooking together. So I will show you what I have and the amounts, and then you can decide whether you just want to watch or you want to follow along too. So if you're baking along with me today, you're going to want to preheat your oven to 375 degrees while you're getting your cookies assembled. Here's what I have. I'm going to be using my KitchenAid mixer. I am using 1.5 cups of brown sugar, 2.5 cups of flour, a teaspoon of vanilla, 3/4 cup butter. I have 1 stick here, and then I'm going to get another 1/4 cup, 1 egg. I have already measured out 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon salt. It's the Redmond salt, that's why it's not white. And then 1.5 cups of chocolate chips. So there's everything you're going to need, plus a bowl for mixing it, or your KitchenAid. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my butter. Mine is room temperature. I don't like it melted, but right out of the fridge is pretty cold. So you could microwave it for maybe like 15 to 20 seconds if you just pulled yours out. Mine, I knew I was going to make cookies today, so I pulled it out this morning so it's nice and soft. To my 3/4 cup of butter, I'm going to add my 1.5 cups of brown sugar. Now, most recipes call for 3/4 cup of white sugar and 3/4 cup of brown sugar, or a mixture somehow of the two. I ended up during the Pantry Challenge realizing that I was running low on white sugar and I wanted to make these cookies, so I had a huge bag of brown sugar. So I just went ahead and used brown sugar, and I actually really like the flavor. So I'm just going to use all brown sugar. I'm going to mix it up until it's nice and fluffy. Okay, go ahead and scrape down the sides if it's starting to collect on the sides. So again. Okay, it's mixed nicely together. You can kind of see a little bit here. Now I'm going to add 1 egg. This is also room temperature. And this you will have to scrape down the sides. The egg tends to clump in the middle. Not get all the sides mixed in. Okay, to this mixture, I'm going to add my vanilla. Now at this point, I'm going to add in my salt and my baking soda. Now if I were doing this by hand, I would definitely mix it in with my flour first so that you don't end up with baking soda lumps, because nobody wants to bite into a cookie and all of a sudden have that little bitter taste in there. So I would completely do all my dry ingredients together first, my salt, my baking soda, and then I would put it in. Since I'm using this mixer that mixes really fast, it's got all this whisk attachment on it, I haven't had a problem by just straight putting in the salt and the baking soda. So again, it depends how wild you want to be in the kitchen, but I'm going to be a wild woman and just straight dump them in. Okay, I have everything in now, just going to add the flour. And I'm using 2.5 cups. That seems to be the right proportion for me. I like a little bit of a thicker cookie. If you like a lacier butter cookie, you can use less, but I'm going to use 2.5 cups. And have to blend it on slow because otherwise, poof, you have flour everywhere. Okay, at this point you can see I have a fairly, well, I don't know, it's like a medium stiff dough. I don't know if you can kind of see. And I'm going to add in my chocolate chips, a cup and a half. Okay, that's it. Super easy. And now I have my dough. So I'm going to get a cookie sheet and line it with parchment paper, and then I'll show you how I scoop them onto the pan. So for most of my life, I just used a spoon and rolled them into a ball and stuck them on a pan. The last maybe couple years, I've been using a dough baller, like ice cream scoop type cookie scoop thing. It does make them nice and even, and they're all the same size, and so you don't have to go back and start you know, adjusting the size, because when you live in a family, it's very important who gets the biggest cookie, and nobody wants the smallest cookie. So this is just the best way to go. I think it's just easy to scoop them out and stick them on the pan. Here are my cookies on the pan. First pan, I've got 12 cookies on it. I don't mash them down. I like them in this shape. They will flatten on their own, but it seems to be just the right shape for me. Cookies about a total of 9 to 10 minutes. So I set them for 5 minutes because I've got 2 pans in one. My lower oven can cook 2 at the same time. So after 5 minutes, I'll rotate the pan so that one can be browning on the top and one is not over browning on the bottom. So I made 24 cookies. I have dough to probably make maybe 12 more. I don't know, it's hard to tell. But I'll tell you something fun that I have been doing because I think this is fun. I don't really like day-old cookies. I mean, I could maybe eat one tomorrow, but I really just like fresh cookies, fresh baked goods. These freeze so well if you just ball them up and then you put them on a plate, stick them in the freezer, let them freeze thoroughly, and then you can pick them off your plate, throw them in a bag, and keep them in the freezer. And then anytime that you want a warm, hot chocolate chip cookie, you can just take out the balls and cook however many that you want. They cook great from frozen right into the oven. So I do that a lot of the time when I have extra cookie dough, or if I've made a double batch. And since we homeschool, we're home during the day, so sometimes it's just fun to have a nice hot chocolate chip cookie after lunch. So when we take our lunch break, I can just throw some in the oven, and then it's just like I've been standing here cooking without having to cook. So anyway, if you have extra cookie dough, you can choose to put it on another pan, or you can just choose to put it on a plate, throw it in the freezer, and then you've got cookies for another time, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, or if company is all of a sudden coming over and you want to have fresh cookies for them. So I was excited about that. I find that they freeze better in the dough balls than if you were to cook the cookies and then freeze them. Then they get a little bit dry to me because the air's got to these, but if you just freeze the dough, it just works out perfectly. So anyway, I'm gonna put these on a plate and then just pop them into the freezer while I'm waiting on my cookies. My timer went off after 9 minutes, and what I'm looking for here is for my cookie to not look glossy on the top. I still thought it had a little bit of gloss, so I set it for another minute, but I think I'm going to check it after 30 seconds because I don't want to overcook them. And remember that they keep cooking even when they come out of the oven on the pan. So if they're a little underdone, they will continue cooking, but I didn't want a raw cookie. Okay, so 30 seconds, I got to check. I just pulled them out. I want to show you them right when they came out. They're still puffy and they will deflate just a tiny little bit, but they don't look glossy. Here's the other pan. They look the same. Switched them halfway through. So we're just going to let them cool just a bit.
Recall when we were young, running from all things at once, without thinking twice.